Skyrim has been re-released for the a billionth time. Did you pick it up? I didn't, for once. Good for me. But Skyrim's a weird game in that, well, there's a lot you could do in the game. It's probably the game that made open world very, very popular. And that's because the game gave a lot to do in its open world. So much so that people like me probably have never played the actual main story in complete and has just spent their time doing other stuff. But let's change that, and today, let's go on a journey playing through the main story in Skyrim. Hello, I am your host, Noah Price. This is Christian Gamer, a show where I will go through games and play games, mostly RPGs and JRPGs, but not always RPGs, and we try to see what it's like to play them. Personally, me, as a Christian, in my expectations, and trying to see, well, is it good or if it's not? At the very least, what is the experience of going through said game as a Christian? And taking you guys along the ride, of course. Today we're going to be playing Skyrim, as said before, and specifically we're going to be playing through, well, the Switch version. The Switch version is the most recent version that I have acquired. I didn't get any more games after that. But I remember when they first announced Skyrim coming to the Switch, I was excited, and that's not because, oh, you can dress up like Link or motion controls even. No, it was because you can play Skyrim on the go. And while yes, to many people, the novelty of playing games on the go because of the Switch has worn off on some, for me, a game known as Skyrim, which was known for its open world and its many things you could do, felt amazing and great. But just like I had done previously in the time, when I got that game when it first came out on Switch, I did not play the main story. I didn't. I spent a long time becoming a sneaky archer who would eventually do the whole Thieves Guild and a couple other stuff. And while yes, I greatly enjoyed that journey, again, I've never played the main story. So let's go play it. Why not?
Before we even get into the character creation, I'm so unsure of what even to do in this game, mostly because of the options of what to play, because there's so many different roles you can do. As mentioned probably already, I originally have already done a sneaking archery boy that like literally everybody has done. And while that's really fun and a part of me kind of actually really wants to do that again, it's probably best to switch it up. Now, a lot of times in fantasy games, I've recently have been doing a lot of like big sword boys, guts-like characters. But one thing I haven't really done in this game is magic. I know the magic system can be kind of cool and complex, so you know what? We might actually jump in and do some magic and be magic boys today. Also, since I'm playing the Switch version, motion controls is an option. And from what I know of the different possibilities in what motion controls come into play, the two best ones that actually really work well with it is, well, magic and also archery. Sorry, sword boys, you know, it's not there yet. But we'll see what happens. Spoilers, you decided not to do the motion controls. They're janky. Ah, yes, the good old traditional beginning. Waking up as a thief. You love to see it. The scene is such an interesting scene. It's iconic, obviously, but it's, I don't know, it kind of just drags on so much. Like, I've heard of some people who've tried to play this game, and they literally stopped at this very beginning because it just took forever at this little beginning part. And honestly, the biggest thing that stood out to me that got my attention was Yulfric's cape. I'm like, yes, I want a cape like that. Not in the game, I mean, in real life. Thief getting shot by arrow? Classic. All right, finally, we're at the character creation. And honestly, we're looking at the races, because I think I am. I'm going to do a magic boy. And so it's probably best to decide and pick a race that actually benefits that. And, well, the problem with dark elves is, well, one look at them and you already can see they are the typical token, I am a villain, gah, type character. I don't mean to be racist. And honestly, because of that, I think the high elf is probably the next best choice for a magic build. Mostly because they have a quicker magicka regeneration. So that's gonna be nice so that we're not like just always drained of magic. Also, I'm honestly just curious to see what this magic build has to offer, mostly because, well, growing up, my brother always played a magic build, and he seemed to always have fun with this. So, hey, let's see what it's all cracked up to be. So after making our high elf and goblin, we had to find a goblin name to fit him. And after contemplating just naming him the Mouth of Saruman, we finally decide to find the fitting name of this goblin. It is Gibbly the Gobbler. I really like how the game just starts with you almost getting executed. Like, what a way to get a hook, which is kind of necessary after the very beginning in the wagon. Especially when there's no real reason to kill us. I mean, that could be a pro, could be a con. I mean, I think it'd be cool if there's a reason, like a real reason we were getting killed, but also you have to keep it a shell so that we can fit the build. So that anybody can just relate to just for no reason getting killed. Luckily, a dragon comes by and, lets us play the game. So that's nice. And yes, finally, after escaping burning buildings and a little bit getting chased by the dragon, we finally get our first real choice in the game, and it's with picking who you want to escape with. You have a choice with the Imperials, who were literally just about to kill you, or the Stormcloak people who helped save you. So, who do you think you're gonna pick? Obviously, I went with the Stormcloaks. I've always just gone with the Stormcloaks. I'm kind of interested in what it'd be like to go with the Imperials, but I don't know. Never have. And here we are to our first dungeon. A little almost tutorial that kind of showcases some of the shenanigans we're going to be getting into with this journey. Stuff like lockpicking, looting bodies, magic, sneaking, death, and even looting more bodies. But after making our way through this little tutorial dungeon, which isn't too crazy, we get to continue our journey with Roloff, who is our Stormcloak form, by the way. We make it to a small town named Riverdale, where Roloff has some friends who can actually help us out as we warn them about the dragon attack. By help us out, I mean basically letting us steal all their stuff. And by we, I mean just us. And actually, before going to Riverdale, we actually stopped by these Guardian Stones that are in the game. They're little boons that you can grab. And right off the bat, they have kind of like the 3 cores, and one of them is literally built just for mage. It's there to help us specifically be able to learn our magic skills much faster. So obviously we went with it. But now we actually got to make our way to Whiterun, which is basically a big old castle place where we actually have a Jarl who can actually help us out, and who we actually need to tell about this situation of, dragons existing. And obviously along that way, we got a little bit distracted. With stuff like, hunting, attempting to free a fellow Stormcloak prisoner, and technically helping out with a giant attack. Technically. It counts. It counts. The game is very much trying to introduce us to some heroics, but so far it has been questionable if we have really fulfilled them. But with those shenanigans aside, we make it to Whiterun fairly easily. And right off the bat, we just get to talk with the Jarl already. And honestly, I've always loved how they presented the Jarl with his laid-backness and just slouching in his chair. And we were able to talk to him about the merry time we had with the dragon and how the Jarl needs to kind of be worried. The Jarl, realizing Gibbly the Gobbler's potential awesomeness, sends us out on a little personal mission to do some research on dragons. This so-called quest we're going on is specifically looking for a certain tablet. Basically the fantasy style of a Kindle. Do people use Kindles anymore? But we set off on our first real quest. Wow. Honestly, I was really tempted to steal a horse on our way out. I'm not saying I did in the past, but, the thought occurred. But Gibbly the Gobbler is no thief, so I'll have to trek on foot. And as we get closer to this dungeon, we come across our first giant camp. I previously have known the danger of giants, but Gibbly the Gobbler was determined this time to build his reputation right off the bat and actually acquire some of those heroics by taking down a giant. And luckily, as we begin our hunt, we obtained our first level up. See, even Jesus is trying to help us out here. We obviously picked the magic upgrade and decided to spend our first perk on boosting our destruction magic since, I'm gonna need some help doing damage. But sadly, as you would expect from fighting a dragon, we get wrecked. It's always great seeing the ragdoll and getting just flung up by the giant. It's great. It's great. through our great determination and also cheesing it with some evolution, we were able to take out not just one, but also two giants. And the tale of Gibbly the Gobbler has only just begun. The rest of the journey to this real first dungeon was actually very peaceful. It's like, I think there was wolves at one point, but that was it. But yes, at our first dungeon, once aside, I'm just honestly hit with like a wave of nostalgic feeling. Again, due to me doing this part of the main story a couple times. So for some reason, this spot's always kind of iconic to me. And as we dive deeper into the dungeon, I'm reminded of how much I love / hate the dungeons in this game. I love them because I do believe they are well designed and believable. But problem comes when you find out that this is how every dungeon looks. But hey, look, already to our first puzzle. That is the fun part about, from what I've seen in these dungeons, is that they do have some puzzles, which is, you know, I'll take those. I guess what I really like about these puzzles is how so much they are not holdy of your hand. I really appreciate it. You seem like you shouldn't, but like a lot of games are kind of getting a bad reputation for holding your hand too much with tutorials or mechanics. And I really love how they just present a puzzle and it's like, nah, you got to figure it out. It's obviously not too punishing, because that can also be a problem in some games. They go too hard into it, and it's like if you're not prepared for it, then it kind of sucks. But yeah, I think this does a good mix of, hey, here's a simple puzzle, but we're not going to tell you, and we're just going to throw it at you just like you're on a real adventure. Also, once again, we leveled up. Love it. And if you're wondering what we're going to be leveling up, well, we're mostly going to be focusing on leveling up our magicka, just so that we can keep using our magic, obviously. And for our actual spell perks, we're going to be focusing on just destructions, at least for right now. Maybe later on, we might do a little bit restoration, just so that can keep us from dying. And now, once again, beyond what knowledge I've acquired from previous playthroughs, this is still a blind playthrough, so I have no idea what to expect with these spells. But the next perk we do pick does dictate our main path of dealing with situations. Having the boosted dual casting for destruction spells steered us towards solving our problems with heavy damage output. A good old glassy build. And past the puzzle, we save a damsel in distress, or at least a dude from a spider who we kill with fire. Take that, Sheila! And as Gibbly the Gobbler goes to save this so-called Mr. Baggins, we learned that our damsel is a bit greedy. So we do the good Lord's work and take care of his sin. PSA, this is just a joke. We actually just murder her. Don't. Wait, it's not the Lord's. Okay. But hey, look, we got the claw. Yeah, look at that. Golden claw. As we proceed farther into the dungeon, we run into our favorite enemy. And definitely not an enemy that is going to get overused in the slightest. Good old drugs. Honestly, they aren't terrible, but like the problem is, again, with this enemy type, it gets a bit overused. Right now, totally fine, but later on, it does get way overused. So, after incinerating countless drugs, we make it to a very clever puzzle that took me forever to figure out when I was playing this for the very first time. Obviously, now this puzzle is kind of nothing, but again, to do nothing to actually hint at this actually being part of the puzzle to solve it. And look at that, we finally make it to the end of the dungeon, and it's time to take on our first boss. Obviously, we actually first grab our first shout in the game before we do that, and then we fight the boss. Even though I forgot that this boss also knew how to shout, it wasn't enough to take away from my experience of dealing with his kind, and obviously, we burn him. He's dead. We got him! After acquiring some spoils from this dungeon, we finally exit it, and we head back to Whiterun to deliver the goods. On our way back, we do take a detour back to Riverwood, where we actually return the Golden Claw, because, well, at this merchant shop, there's actually a side quest of actually retrieving the Golden Claw. And this was always a side quest I always did, which I actually really loved a lot. This time I just kind of cheated, so... And now, Gibbly the Gobbler's pockets are filled even higher with gold. Alright, now back to Whiterun. On our way back, we made sure to take part in the community garden by taking all the produce. Hey man, somebody has to be a taker. And once back at Whiterun, we were told of a sighting of a dragon. So obviously, we, Gibbly the Gobbler, head out with a group of Whiterun's finest 1-1 token soldiers. Oh, and also as a side note before we actually follow that, before that, I actually started on my first steps into the journey of enchanting weapons. I've never, in my whole time playing this game, really dealt with enchantments. Just like alchemy, I have in the past done stuff like blacksmithing, but I've never done enchantment. So why not do something new and let's see what the world of enchanting can do for us. Obviously, while staying blind. Okay, back with our band of merry men of 1-1s. Once they're at the place, we have a little nice talk over coffee with the survivors of the dragon attack. They're totally having a great day. You know, it's Mondays, you know. Until, obviously, the dragon gladly comes back to, well, greet us to our very first dragon battle. And also, I've always enjoyed this introduction to fighting a dragon. It's such a great setting, a atmosphere of you're heading there. It's kind of actually, like, bleak and scary because you see people who are like, oh, no. It's gonna come back, we're scared. And then you have a group of dudes of 1-1s to obviously get picked off by the dragon, because, you know, dragon be like that. And obviously, while being so early on in low level, fighting a dragon can be actually pretty challenging too. Especially if you don't have a group of dudes to distract it. Obviously, we are Gibbly the Gobbler, so we are no match for the dragon, and of course we take it down. This is where it feels like the main story really kicks off. Because, obviously, with killing this dragon, we actually get, well, its soul. Because obviously we do. And we get to, well, start to learn the journey of shouts and what it means for us to being the Dragonborn. So what do you do after slaying a dragon? Well, you head back to Whiterun, of course. Once back there, we talk to the Jarl and tell him about, well, how we amazingly slew the dragon and how we stole its soul and how we might be something called the Dragonborn. Also, side note, right outside before we got to the Jarl, we actually heard some loud shouts. We're told later by the Jarl that it's probably the Greybeards, and that we should probably go to the Greybeards because they actually know more about the stuff, and we should go there to, you know, basically know the story. We're also given the opportunity to have Lydia with us, which is our first companion, really. And I don't know how you guys feel about Skyrim's companions. The only one I ever really remember is Lydia, obviously. And while sometimes I usually use her just so that, you know, obviously I don't have to carry all my stuff and get encumbered. But beyond that, I never really found having Lydia as a companion actually really cool. So, sorry Lydia, but this is a solo journey. Before we make our trek to the Beards of the Degree, we make some purchases of spellbooks, and well, it's great to have more options on our table. We are only going to basically use our good old destruction and even some restoration spells. I just honestly feel like this fits more for me. I might as well just stick with one path and kind of stick with it, which is kind of a bummer because I'm kind of starting to think that destruction only might not be the best route or the most crazy and fun route. But hey, this is the journey we're on. The one spell we actually did just buy that we do end up using a lot in the future is fast healing. Oh, it's so nice to just help heal us up really quickly. We also pick up Firebolt, which is a pretty good destruction spell that, again, is going to be a spell we use a lot. Now off to the Greybeards. On our way, we end up taking down a bandit tower, because of course you do. And then afterwards, we proceeded to get more sidetracked by finding a troll cave full of trolls. Who would have thought? But honestly, that troll cave, I was really surprised about. Like, that's one thing that I haven't found on my journey in previous playthroughs. And so I was actually really interested once I did find this troll camp. I'm just like, yeah, no, let's go through it. Let's see what's in there. Which, obviously, we deal with through firebolts. And if that wasn't enough, we also find a giant camp that I couldn't cheese it and honestly died a couple times. But after getting whooped on by the giant camp a couple times, we just pushed past. I felt like, you know what, let's not deal with it. Let's focus on the main path until we get distracted again by a mage fort, which I find out quickly that certain magics are good against different magics, such as fire will do greater damage if the foe is burned or on fire. Frost spells will deplete a foe's stamina meter, which is pretty good. And then the best one, which is what I found out a lot, is lightning drains the magicka of your foe. So using that against, well, magic users is really good. Unless they're using it against you, where you kind of get bodied pretty quickly. But after a long while of getting through that tricky little mage fort, we finally make it to Iverstead, which is the base of the mountain, to the graveyards. And moving forward in our journey, I've done my best at moving away from more of the side adventuring stuff. Again, that's not really the point of this journey. So some of the side stuff we just got done doing is mostly only done so that we can get a few levels up so that I'm hopefully not dying too many times. But again, this is more of a journey focused on solely the main story. And with that means taking on the 1,000-step journey, which is so called the journey up to the Greybeards, which I kind of like that there's a whole little lore story type thing of like, it's a challenge or a trek, a pilgrimage to make it up this spot, which I respect. I think it's actually really cool. Sadly, I mean, the trek itself isn't really hard at all, except for, well, that spot. This spot, again, is super iconic to me, and this was the first time that out of nowhere I just got bodied, because other times playing this game and making it to this point, and this is the first time you roll into, well, sometimes just a troll in general. A frost troll is so much stronger than a normal troll, but I remember so many times in the previous playthroughs getting bodied by the spot. Obviously, Gibbly the Gobbler is no such man, and so he decimates this frost troll with his super effective fire spells. But with that haunting of the past behind me, we finally make it to the Beards establishment. So the Greybeards teach us the way of the voice, and that's partially to help us, and I guess is to also potentially test us. I don't know, it's kind of weird their thought process with it. But hey, we get some shouts out of this situation, so I mean, it doesn't really hurt us. But the Greybeards have one final quest or trial for us to finally prove that we are the Dragonborn, because somehow we haven't already proven it. I don't know, it's kind of weird. So we gotta go find the horn of the Yargan Windcaller, which is actually pretty far away this time. Nowhere close for us to fast travel, so this is gonna be a long journey now. And well, since this dungeon is so far away, you know how I'm saying we're not really taking detours, we're kind of sticking to the main plot? Well, welcome to a filler arc in the tale of Gibbly Gobbler. Yes, we take a sidestep and we actually head to Winterhold, the College of Magic. Again, this was always something that I've always heard my brother playing with and actually heading here and doing. And honestly, through my different playthroughs, I've never really been a part of this or did anything with it. And so, well, let's go see what this college has to do. Yes, this is the filler arc where Gibbly the Gobbler goes to college. And right off the bat, sadly, it wasn't quite what I was expecting. All we ended up doing really was, well, first off, learning a silly ward spell, which helps do a little protection barrier against spells. Nothing crazy. Obviously, it's just started enrolling. What do you expect? But come on. Kind of lame stuff. And then we head off into going into a dungeon, which I guess is cool for a field trip, but it's like, all we did was find an odd sphere. We also got yelled at for throwing books everywhere. I don't know what that was about. And then having to go find some books that this old geezer lost himself. And yes, while getting the books back, we did get a level up and some new perks, which obviously we spent on Magicka. And we used one of our perks on, well, I mean, okay, I'm not proud of this. We wasted a perk on a healing spell that cure 50% more effective, which is status elements, which, yeah, I thought it was actually healing, not status elements. But hey, the other perk we did spend on was making our shock spells do 25% more, which is pretty good if we had to use shock against other magic users. So, one bad choice and a good choice. Yeah. But yes, after returning the stolen books, we decided as Gibbly the Gobbler to make the biggest decision in our adult elf career, and we dropped out of the College of Winterhold. I know, all that wasted money, sad, truly is, but we gave it a good college try, but it's time to go back to our so-called destiny. And with that, of course, we get a level up, because why not get rewarded for our bad decisions? We choose our perk into Impact, which later on is really going to be changing the game. But enough of all this nonsense. It's back to the Horn of Jurgen. Honestly, if it wasn't for this kind of almost challenge of only focusing on the main story, I feel like I could have eventually somewhat liked the College of Winterhold. I do visit later on in this adventure and you find out more about it. But sadly, yeah, this is just a setting where we're going to be focusing more on the main story. And so, we don't have enough time to focus too much on these side quests. As we got close to our destiny, we were warmly welcomed by some living dead people. Thanks to a necromancer, obviously. See, that could have been of us. But we had to be a pyromancer, I guess. And though they were a pain, we are finally here to our next dungeon. And guess what? Turns out this is another typical dungeon with plenty of friendly drugs. And some with magicka. Look at that. See, it's changing. A little flavor, a little spice. But as this dungeon opens up a bit, which I really love, I'm reminded of one of my actual favorite enemies. Skeletons! My favorite part is just how true they were to skeletons in this game. And that making it where you just hit them once and they just fall apart. I love it. I'm in love of the skeleton archetype enemy solely because of this feature in this game. It's honestly satisfying. Deeper into the dungeon, we obtain a new shout, which we won't ever use, sadly, but hey, we got it. And we also found secret waterfall treasure. Wow. And at the end of the dungeon, we got a cool show, even though I was slightly worried about being pounced upon by crab people, but the worst actually happened. The dumb horn I was trying to get was gone. And instead, we are left with a note telling me to go rent a room in Riverwood. And so, off to Riverwood. I mean, I had stuff to sell anyway, so sure. Back at Riverwood, our so-called friend meets us. She gives us the Jurgen, and we have to follow her into a different room because this room wasn't good enough. Very weird. With a secret entrance open, I get to join this lady to an area where no one can hear me scream. Great. She explains that she's the last of an awesome group called the Blades, who slay dragons. So I guess I'm in good company, right? And so we join the lady and, well, looking into who possibly is the one bringing the dragons back to life. And supposedly there's a spot where this Blade, Delphine, knows of where there's possibly a dragon going to be coming back. So we're off to head over there. Separately, but, over there. And when we got to the spot, we found no other than a dragon coming back to life by another dragon. Just sounds like a bad, which came first, the dragon or the dragon? And obviously, my first reaction is, attack it. And sadly, that does nothing against Alduin, who is this dragon who is speaking a lot of words. Even though Alduin left the party, we were able to defeat the newborn dead zombie dragon thing, though. So that's cool. And with that, we're rewarded with a good old lore drop from Delphine, who tells us that we have to find out what the Thalmor may know about it. Because for some reason, Delphine thinks the Thalmor has something to do with it. I don't know. For some reason, she thinks the Thalmor are bad. Before we even start to consider her mission against these Thalmors, we actually have something we have to return to some beards. So let's head back there and hand over a certain horn of Jurgen. The beards obviously, congratulate us for giving them the horn of Jurgen, and they give us a new word. I love shouts, and this one's the force bush, which is definitely gonna be some fun to use. Then beards just kind of leave as if we have never spoken to each other in our lives, and I guess that means I should leave too. It was very weird. They're just like, hey, cool, you did it. You are it. Here's this voice. Here's the shout. All right. Bye. All right, Delphine, I'm back. And right off the bat, she just starts spouting about how we can break into the evil Thalmor ambassadory. Again, I don't know why she thinks the Thalmor are evil, but all right. But basically, her plan is sneaking me, obviously me, not her, in during a party and hoping I can find the goods that will prove that they know something about this, or is a part of this. Luckily, there will be a guy on the inside, so, you know, at least I won't be the only one stuck in this whole mess. At the very least, I'm hoping he can at least save me if something goes bad. On my way to the party, I learned what happens when you stand too close to executions. I'm so sorry, I was getting you nostalgic, okay? But once away from all the people trying to kill me, I finally got to the meeting spot where we meet the person who's gonna help us with sneaking into the party. And we're told that we can't bring any weapons inside, and so we have to actually give him all the stuff we want when we head into the party. Luckily, it's not really a situation for us because, you know, we are our own weapon. So with all that out of the way, it's time to sneak and slide. And it was easy to get in. We just honestly had to show an invitation and bada bing, bada boom, we're in. But now what's inside, I guess I have to make a scene so that I can like sneak inside Solid Snake style. And luckily, I make friends with somebody who needs a drink, and as being a good Samaritan, I got him a drink. And what do you know? This man starts making a scene. Maybe that was a problem. But hey, now we can sneak around without notice, right? I said without notice. Gibbly the Gobbler wasn't really known for sneaking, I guess. But as we snuck around, basically killing anybody who got in our way or saw us, so technically we're always sneaking, we finally find out the truth about the Dahmer ambassador. And guess what? They don't know anything about the dragons. So much for Delphi thinking that they knew something about it. Well, I guess it's time to get out of here then. And after getting past a super easy frost roll, we were able to escape. And without the Dahmer realizing what was going on. Even though I did technically murder countless of their guards. It's funny, once we get back to Delphine, she's pretty much still in denial about the Dahmer not knowing anything, even though we told them literally everything that we saw. But we did tell her some more stuff that we actually did find, which was that, hey, the Dahmer we're talking about a guy named Esbern. And it turns out that, well, Delphine actually knows about this dude. I guess he used to be part of the Blades, and so, well, she sends me out to go find him before the evil, vile Dahmer could get to him first. Which means heading off to Riften. Riften is where the Thieves Guild was, which a previous playthrough of this game, I actually did do the Thieves Guild, and so it almost feels like heading to a second home. Oh, also, before we left, did make sure to do some good old enchanting. At this point, I can't make anything strong, but I'm still on that grind through disenchanting and enchanting items just to help grind and level up my enchanting so that potentially in the future I can actually enchant something good. And honestly, through all that enchanting, it actually caused me to level up twice. And for the first time, I actually upgraded my health. And then I put a perk into making my stronger restoration spells cost less because, you know, that'll probably help us out. And for the second upgrade, obviously I went for Magicka because, you know, we gotta have that magic. And for the perk, I actually did my first perk into enchanting. Wow! Now off to Riften. There was only one real hiccup we came across while traveling to Riften. For some reason, when Gibbly the Gobbler saved the auto and loaded it up while on a horse, we had no traction. Obviously, yes, this is a Bethesda game, so, you know, glitches were bound to happen. So what are we do? Well, obviously, we're going to try to take advantage of this and try to travel as far as we can in no time flat. I mean, we have no traction. Why not? And after many failed attempts, looks like it was sadly hopeless. Well, it was until one time when our noble steed, who we didn't steal, by the way, we just asked to ride it. I was trying to buy it actually, and it just let me ride it. The whole other thing. But our noble steed, Sprinkles, truly did the most, went the extra mile, and brought us the distance. Rest in peace, Sprinkles. But with that bizarreness out of the way, we finally made it to Riften. We went straight to work trying to find the crazy kook Esbern. Okay, well, actually, we ended up staying the night. Hey, some crazy stuff just happened today, okay? I need a rest, all right? Early in the morning, though, we raced to the maze. That was where Esbern was, supposedly, in some maze. It didn't take long for us to run into trouble, though, but due to my previous knowledge, and that knowledge being somebody who actually, took part in the Thieves Guild. So I ran. Okay, I killed 2 guys, but beyond them, I just ran. I book it. Once we made it to the Thieves Guild, and after talking to the man, we found out that Esbern is locked up deeper in the Redways, and also that there are some Thalmor that are after him. So we rushed with urgency to beat the Thalmor to Esbern, those evil Thalmors. And after whooping on some evil Thalmors and getting a little lost, we were finally able to find Esbern. After convincing him to join us and to come out of his self-made prison, we were able to start a good old escort mission. Escort missions, I usually don't like. I hate them. They're not really that fun ever. But this one was actually pretty easy, so, no complaining here. I mean, it helped that we could just easily fast travel back to Riverwood, but hey. And with that fast travel, the gang's all back together. Wow, what a reunion. Wow. Now, hopefully, we can actually learn at least something about these gosh darn dragons. Once down in our secret little base to do our little talk about the situation with dragons, Esper tells us that there is a old blade base at a place called Skyhaven Temple, where there's a memorial that dictates the prophecy about this dragon situation. So, off we go to Skyhaven. But before that, we gotta do some good old grinding on our enchantment skills, which does include stealing. I mean taking, which says take, not steal, of all the Delphian stuff that's down here. And then we're off to Skyhaven. So in order to make it to Skyhaven, we have to journey across all of Skyrim. So I guess it's time to actually buy a horse this time. Man, I miss Sprinkles already. It doesn't take long for us to run into a wild dragon though. So obviously with our level up, we decide to, out of fear, actually level up our health. And we put a perk into Rune Master, which sadly we really don't ever use. It's kind of a weird little situational, lay down a trap type situation, but eh. Now it's dragon time! And with some help from some good old BFGs, we were able to slay the dragon. Nice. And then literally only a few minutes later, we see another dragon. Oh, but I guess this one turns out to be Alduin, necromancing a dragon and leaving it to deal with us. Which wasn't a problem due to our broken stun lock ability we have with our firebolt. I'm honestly loving this so much, this firebolt combo of stun locking foes. It's saving our hide. I am hoping that somewhat soon we can hopefully unlock some new shouts so that we can actually start making use of these dragon souls. Moving on, after getting bullied by some vampires, we were able to make it to a small mining town where there was yet another dragon. And after helping those townspeople, we finally made it to our meeting spot, but I actually got there before everybody, which was kind of weird, which really gave me an attack of opportunity against the enemy, but I kind of didn't really make much use of it. Luckily, it was just a bunch of Forsworns, which are basically not so dark elves cannibals. And while majority of these goons were easy to take out, I did die several times by this singular goon. But once I was able to actually survive against that goon, it was time to deal with more goons. Luckily, it was just one group. So now we got this gorgeous area where we got some good old lore and a puzzle, which I figured out instantly. It wasn't that hard. Definitely didn't just guess, definitely. But hey, we made it to Skyhaven. Wow. I was sharing some of my Kool-Aid. Yeah, we'll say that. Don't cut people, that's not cool. We were able to make it into the old Blade hideout, which we are introduced to this wall. Wow. The writing on the wall. Now, we got a lot of the lore right here. Stuff like how in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and that the earth was formless and empty. Oh, all right. That's the Bible. All right. Caught me. Actually, just Alduin and his dragon cult. I have a mixed feeling about this part of the story, to be honest. While I like that they use something that makes sense of the medieval world of like a wall chiseled to tell the story, reminds me of sagas from Magic. But the problem is that it really just turns into, hey, let me tell you the lore real quick. Either way, turns out we find out that the people of the past took care of Alduin in their time with A shout! Wow. Which we know nothing about. But those graybeards are bound to know what shout is, right? I mean, that's kind of their whole thing, right? Also, we are learning that Delphine really doesn't like the graybeards because they are afraid of power. Which, to be honest, I'm kind of more on their side. A dragon-style power seems a bit destructive, to be honest. Potentially destructive, how about that? Obviously, before I head back to the Beardios, we snatched what goods we could find here, which, I mean, were some good items. I mean, obviously, nothing that we could actually use. Just stuff that I could hopefully disenchant and then enchant to get that grind on. After dissing the blades, the main beard denied helping us until we've been enlightened, I guess. The beards had a fair point of it's possibly predestined. Who are we to try to stop it if this is supposed to be the ending? I mean, to some extremes, it would be like us Christians trying to stop the second coming of Christ, or similar to in Norse mythology of Ragnarok happening. Luckily, though, the big man upstairs said otherwise. I don't mean God. Don't crucify me. I guess the main beard who's upstairs is the only one who can actually teach me this Excalibur level shout. And in order to reach him, I have to go through a death trial. Yep, that makes sense. Luckily, though, the trial only featured ice rays, which actually did a number on me, and floating goats. But once at the throat of the world, which is what this top place is called, I had to quickly drop a quick save because there was a dragon up here. I was really not expecting our friend to be a dragon. Definitely makes a bit more sense now as to why there's not really people going up here, I guess. So, Beard Dragon gives some of his powers to us so that we could smack him with it. Weird. I guess it's like communicating him, you know, doing that dragon speech back to him. I don't know, it's weird. Either way, after being interrogated about why we wanted to learn the Excalibur shout known as Dragon Ren, we get to learn about the Elder Scroll. Roll credits, right? Supposedly, it's an artifact that has been exiled from the game, but we learned that while Patharux, the beer dragon, can't teach us Dragon Ren, and that instead we would have to learn it from the mortals who created it in the first place. And in order to do that, we got to get that Elder Scrolls. Because guess what? That thing lets you time travel, I guess. Because of course it is. I have no idea as to how I never got spoiled or figured out or hearing anything about this game having time travel liver. Like, literally, the Elder Scroll itself is about time travel. At least the one in this game. I don't know. Mind-boggling. So, where are we to go and learn of the Elder Scrolls whereabouts? Because, of course, Patharux isn't going to know. Well, I guess we're supposed to head back to the College of Winterhold to supposedly someone there might know about its whereabouts. Sure, let's do that. Once back at the college, though, we get to talk to the librarian, who definitely likes us and doesn't hate us. We learned from him that the Elder Scrolls is basically just convenience and books for writers of the game for whatever they may want. Cool, love it. I love that. Sadly, our librarian, though, doesn't know where the Elder Scroll may be. That makes sense. But he does tell us of a person named Septimus Cygnus, who is, I guess, the most known in the study of Elder Scroll, even to the point of going mad. This is starting to feel more like Eldritch horror instead of, like, Norse mythology. So we find out where his last known whereabouts was, and we head off in that direction, I guess. Again, we choose to level up our health up to 130, like a good boy. But once we get to 150, oh, you best believe we're heading back to just continuing to boost up our magicka. But since we are frail, it is probably best to strike up our light armor also, just so that we don't just go down after taking one hit. And also, before we left the college, I decided to get a little tutoring done, which actually helped us to level up again. So, once more, let's get our health up to 140. And we also decided to upgrade our enchanting ability of acquiring more soul gems so that we can do more enchanting. Now, it's time to find our friend, Septimus. Besides riding away from wolves and ice jerks and not slaughtering some horkers, we made it to the ice caves where Septimus last was. And we instantly found him. That was easy. What wasn't easy was ciphering Septimus's speech to understand where to go to get our Elder Scroll. Basically, all we have to do is go down to Black Reach, where the Dwemer are. Dwemers are basically like dwarf machines for the uninitiative. Honestly, the idea of dwarves in this game is a little bit sad. There's probably more about them in other games, but all I know is from Skyrim, and sadly, they're nowhere to be found. All that's found is all their leftover machines, and I guess that's cool, but I don't know, it's weird. So we're directed to the nearest little opening down to Blackreach on our map, and so we head there. As I soon find out, Blackreach is not a small area, and right away, we have to deal with some good old dwarven spiders, which would be terrifying in person, to be honest. I mean, it honestly jump scared me while playing this in person, but, don't worry about it. But after dodging some traps, we went through an opening back to Skyrim. I assume we'll find another end, which we do, without any interruptions from the goons, just a little walking, I guess. Love it. And after dispatching some more mecha spiders, we run into some Bakugans, who are actually really terrifying. They could just do so much damage, at least to me. I'm so frail. But don't worry, we did die. After using literally all of our healing items, we were able to defeat them. After stealing some Falmer's souls, until we run into some mecha boss boys. And while this Centurion Steam attack did do a lot of damage, we were able to stun lock the normal way to prevent possibly taking more damage before beating it. We actually got the opportunity to level up, so of course I'm going to take it. Mid-battle level ups are the best, and we choose to level up our Magicka so that I can replenish my Magicka mid-combat. I don't know if it would have made a difference if I chose health, but oh well. And then we made it so that our fire magic could possibly make enemies flee, because why not? And through cheating, we slayed the Centurion. And after ignoring mom and dad fighting, I honestly have no idea who they are at all. We head ever downwards. I really hope this will finally get us to Blackreach. Oh, yeah, we did it! Yay! We made it to Blackreach. Now we just gotta find the Elder Scroll without dying. Easy, right? It doesn't take long for me to start to realize that this place is a bit big. So my game plan is, let's just go to the main path, or what seems to be the main path. Why not? Like here, I found an opening to a big open world, and there's a lot of these. Mostly because there's spots like these which literally lead back up to the main open world, and so they're little just openings. Cool. I mean, they are helpful because I do take advantage of it right here to fast travel, to, lighten my load to sell something so that we can carry more stuff as we go through this dungeon. And before we get to go back, I guess I'm getting challenged by a challenger to do a magic battle. Cool. It's your funeral. I honestly really like this magic fight. Using my smarts, I knew that electricity saps Magicka users, and then we just froze him with our ice shout. Okay, maybe that was cheating, using the shout, but, he did sit down to the ground rules. Okay, and then he just proceeded to take out a knight to get me? I feel like that's for sure cheating. I mean, I guess maybe I cheated first, and so maybe either way, we defeated him. And now, after lightening our load, it's time to continue exploring Blackreach. I didn't know this until after, but this is supposed to be like the last big dungeon for the game's main plot. And while the idea of it is really cool, a big dungeon that spans a good chunk of like Skyrim itself, but what kind of happens is the same thing that tends to happen in big open worlds. It also just felt very empty, a bit confusing, not quite too unique compared to everything else we've seen, including literally fighting all the same goons we've been fighting the whole game. I mean, okay, while saying that, I do love that they put a giant down here, because, like, why not? Why not just have a giant roaming this place? With Gibbly the Gobbler reaching level 17, we finally level up our health to 150, which means we can go back to just leveling up our Magicka. Glass cannon, let's go! We also got the soul siphon perk, so we can steal souls for, the Lord even better. That's how Christians work, right? Just kidding, it's just for enchanting. Jesus loves you! Again, this area took super long because I just defeated literally everybody. And then I got lost and just had to run around until like I could actually figure out where to go. I mean, the game glitched midway through, I think. I think it was a glitch. So this place actually got lit up and I could actually see, and it looks actually quite nice. Not, it helped me out. Before I confess my faults, let's talk about what is actually my favorite part of this area. There is a optional dragon boss here. If you shout at this nightlight little bell thing, we summon a boss dragon. Sadly, it doesn't give us anything special for defeating it, but I'm all for taking down a dragon in a dungeon, you know? I'm all about it. Our tactic against this actual bulky, spongy dragon is literally just hiding behind what little cover we can find and using fast healing to quickly heal back the massive damage dealt by the dragon. And then, obviously, switching back to our twin firebolt and sunlocking our dragon. It was actually really hard cheesing this boss this way, but it was super fun and very fitting for Gibbly, the Gobbler. And after a while of slowly waiting for our magicka to replenish, because, of course, we were all out of potions to heal ourselves, we decided to start using our surplus of staffs, because, you know, when else are we going to use them? Not all those staffs are equal, and they aren't too crazy in general, but it is nice to reserve some of our magicka just so that we can use it for healing ourselves while dealing damage through our staffs. But in the end, it wasn't even enough to defeat the boss because a stupid bug had to come along and steal my kill. Freedom! Alright, let's talk about the actual problem I had with this place. I already mentioned some, but this is the main problem. So at the end of the dungeon is this puzzle where you put in your cube that was given us to by our friend Septimus. And then you're supposed to push the button to make the stuff work. Well, it wasn't clear that you're supposed to do this. You just come in here and like, oh, okay. But what you're supposed to do is click a button multiple times until the other buttons unlock, and then you click that button and it works. How was I supposed to know this? Especially when after clicking the button, there was no response. It seemed like that was just, oh, this is wrong. Ugh. Either way, look! It's a Skyrim Scroll of Elder. Alright, let's head back to the Beard Dragon. Sorry, Septimus. Beard Dragon tells us to fulfill our destiny by taking the Elder Scroll to the Time Scar place. So that I guess we can learn from the humans of the past who fought Alduin in the past and used Dragon Shout, the Dragon Run. So we can learn it that way, I guess. I mean, nothing bad has ever happened when meddling time, right? So this will go right, alright? Again, I'm still shocked that this plot was going to have to do with time travel in some way. We see the previous party of Dragon Lords slaying dragons, which is cool. And then with the Elder Scroll, which they just have, obviously, they start shouting out Alduin. And boom, we learned to shout Dragon Red. Cool. And then we get to see Alduin go 88 miles per hour to the future. And how convenient. When we get done seeing the past Alduin with the Elder Scroll, we get to see Alduin now. He just came here, and I guess it's time for a fight. Is this really the end of the game already? Just in case our hard save before all of this, just in case it was, so that way I can do what little stuff I might want to. Sometimes in open games, they pick to decide that after you beat the final mission, then boom, that's the end of the game. I like open worlds like Insomniac's Spider-Man, to where after beating the main story, you still get to do the other missions. That always feels much better, but, you know, just out of fear, I'm gonna hard save. So, we use Dragon Red on Alduin, which I guess forces him to land so that we can hit him. Not as epic as I thought it was gonna be, but I guess now we can actually whoop on him, which I guess is the point. And I won't lie, I was probably not prepared for this fight. I mean, again, just a reminder, I don't have any potions because I just got done fighting another dragon. But for instance, after just the first hit, I was already ready to go down and just die. So I remembered my strategy with the last dragon I had slayed on my quest. And we end up doing the literally exact same thing. So for the most part, this fight is just like fighting any other dragon, except sometimes we have to use Dragon Red to get him down. He makes fireballs come down. You know, normal stuff. Doesn't always hit you, so it's not really a problem. We also get help from our Beard Dragon, which is cool. It at least really helps so that we don't necessarily have all the attention on us. That's very helpful. I do end up having to hide behind a rock to survive, but whatever, you know, a dub's a dub. Also, one thing that is also a problem with this fight is that my stunlock power that I get when twinning my firebolts just doesn't exist against Alduin. Which means I'm more likely just to take hits. We do indeed beat Alduin though, even if it had to take me hiding behind boulders and just hitting him with staffs. You know, Again, a dub's a dub. But, like a good old true old final boss, we don't actually kill him. It turns out he's just gonna fly away. I mean, we whooped on him though. Yeah. I guess the bright side is there's more game here. Yeah? Yeah. The Beard Dragon lets us know that while we didn't defeat Alduin, we were able to make him look bad, which means that his groaning dragons will less likely be loyal to him, which we can use to our advantage. I like where this is heading. So now the game plan is to try and convince one of Alduin's ex-buddies to help us fight Alduin. And the best way to do that is by first capturing one. Sure. And how are we going to capture it, you might ask? Well, by trapping it in Dragon Search, which is at Whiterun, of course. Of course, that was originally built to trap dragons. I was, again, once more, extremely shocked as to how the story was just like, oh yeah, no. Go back here, do this thing that's unexpected. Yeah, we're going to capture a dragon, obviously. So, let's head to Whiterun and let's see if we can convince the Jarl to let us trap a dragon at his home. But before doing that, I'm going to do a bit of exploring, such as nabbing a few potatoes, not stealing, obviously. There is an open market. We do end up going to Markroft, which is all the way on across map, and instantly I was mentally scarred, so I just left. And instead we head to this main spot that I was trying to reach actually here in the first place. And we instead make it to the main spot, which is where I was trying to reach. It's a side quest spot that the Beard Dragon told us about. And then once defeating this side quest, I just realized that these specific dungeons are the spots where you can find dragon shouts. Which, honestly, I'm surprised that it took me this long to figure out that this is where I learned dragon shouts, but okay. So you know what time it is. Time for another filler arc. It's the shout hunting filler arc. I'm gonna go find a lot of shouts. And honestly, for the sake of this video, because all the dungeons are so similar, and because this video is taking forever, we're gonna just skip past this whole filler arc. But if you want to see this filler arc, and not just this, but also like the whole series of this full recording of the tale of Gibbly the Gobbler, well, you can go watch it over on my other channel called Hero Scrub. There's gonna be a link of it down in the description and down in the comments. And so yeah. If you want to watch this whole thing of me literally streaming this game, go check that out. Cool. Filler arc done. Honestly, the coolest thing we got wasn't even a shout during this whole filler arc. It turned out to be a ghost sword. Is it strong? Not really. But it is pretty cool and fitting for Gibbly the Gobbler. I mean, it's not. It's really not meant for magic. But still, it's cool. The shouts we did end up getting were more just utility stuff, or just stuff that just literally doesn't fit our build. Like, one of them is Elemental Fury, which makes us swing faster, which is cool. Good enough for a ghost sword, but like, it's not helpful for us with magic. Honestly, it was just a fun little adventure going and hunting down all these dungeons and doing them. Sadly, again, it was a bit boring because of the dungeons just looking so similar. The game did do a little bit here and there to mix it up, but still, it was a little bit too similar for my taste. Again, check out the streams if you want to, but you don't have to. Oh yeah, also, we got some drip. Pretty cool, right? Okay, let's go roll some charisma to try to persuade this girl. Also, by the way, I'm at level 21. If that means anything to you guys. With deciding to be a little smooth talky right now and not go right off the bat talking to the girl that's saying, hey, we need to use your deal to trap dragons. We try to be a little bit more clever by telling him that he needs us to do something to deal with the dragon, you know? Make it seem like he needs our help. He wants us to help. But instead he basically just responds with a, hey, courage is what we need. Which, fair. So I guess we'll just go with this straightforward approach. The Jarl basically confesses that this is what it was built for. But then when we ask again, he just says it's impossible for us to do this. Okay. Great help, Jarl. In all fairness, he is worried for his people, but luckily I was able to convince him that Alduin is actually, existing is here and is the problem. And once I drop the name Alduin, the Jarl agrees to help. But we do have to help him first in order to make this actually happen. AKA dealing with some politics. the Yardo White One is actually worried of the two sides of the Imperials and the Stormcloaks, because he doesn't want to basically get tacked in the back while dealing with the dragons because of their whole shenanigans. So obviously the potential solution here is, hey, let's see if we get a little of a peace treaty going while all these dragons are a problem. And supposedly, I guess the best place to have this meeting is at the Greybeards. I guess either side kind of has a little respect to the Greybeards. So I guess I gotta go to the Greybeards and try to convince them of letting us hold a peace treaty, which will probably be easy because they're probably definitely on board for, you know, helping out a cause and being proactive in this situation. They said no. We explained that both sides trust the Beards, and then they said yes. Cool, that was easy. Now I guess someone's gotta tell both sides to come to this meeting. I mean, I guess that's probably important. And I guess I better start going, right? It's actually crazy how much of these two storylines of the feuding war that I just missed out through not doing their storylines and just doing the main story. Like, I understand that it's optional, but it is cool how much of their stuff is just potentially to be missed. Especially with their introductions, I really expected their story to be more incorporated with the main story. But hey, I'm fine with this too. Not long later, we made it to Windhelm, which is home of the Stormcloaks right now. Since the beginning of the game, we finally again get to meet Ulfric. Well, one of us looks better from the encounter than the other, but no, I'm not going to say who. I get straight to the point and letting him know that, hey, the Greybeards are going to have a truce meeting, you should come. And after having to spell it out for him, aka persuasion about Alduin being alive and how that's a thing, Ulfric finally then agrees to join the meeting. Cool, there's one down, now just one more to nab. Back at good old Solitude. Oh, the memories of breaking up execution. Good times, good times. Kind of surprised they just let me in like this, but I guess you could do a lot with confidence. Come to our meeting. Cool, and now that's two. Well, let's get this meeting going. I got a date with the dragon. So, with the whole crew, including our Blade Boys and my horse for some reason, back at the Beard's place, it's time to see what this game is going to let us do at this meeting. I also wasn't expecting this again, but I'm excited. Please don't let it just be me sitting in a cart again, just being talked to. I can't say that this is like Game of Thrones, partially due to never watching that show, but I could technically say Lord of the Rings, but honestly, I'm not really feeling it. It also, for some reason, is making me think of like Star Wars and its politics with the Senate. Have you all heard of Darth Plagueis? And already as this meeting starts, there's quips going back and forth from different groups. What a great way to start. It's funny, we do get to make some choices to hopefully help come to a truthful outcome. It's kind of somewhat reliant on us. And while I would like to say that I was fully unbiased with my answers, I definitely did help out the Stormcloaks a little bit more than the Imperials. And, you know, I try to let the Stormcloaks not get cheated. Like offering to give the Imperials Dawnstar instead of Riften and the Thieves Guild's place, which is obviously just better revenue-wise, which the Imperials didn't really like, which I didn't really help by even trying to push it even more. But honestly, beyond that, it's kind of just turned into a boring section that I was just trying to push through. I feel like this was a great moment to be immersed into Skyrim's world and its politics and lore. And honestly, I don't think it's actually the game's fault. A lot of time, politics in fantasy movies or games are criticized for being boring. But again, I think they can be a great opportunity to touch on industry topics or even touch on the values that are of your fantasy setting. But I think what happened for me in this moment was I was starting to get actually a little bit burned out by this game. And honestly, its game story and just trying to get done with it. You know, this isn't something that's new to me. This has happened every once in a while with RPGs that are longer than 60 hours. And because of XYZ of what I do, I think I can sometimes cause the burnout itself, mostly with like putting a deadline and trying to finish the game. Something like that. But bazinga, we come to a truce. Alright, now let's capture our dragon. Also, I got a shout to call dragons. Cool. Weird. Basically, this is what we're going to need to actually, you know, get the dragon to come fight us so we can trap it. Also, Delphine wants us to kill the beer dragon upstairs because he's a dragon and he helped Alduin, I guess. Even though he betrayed him, but whatever. She has somewhat of a fair point, but also, no, that's racist. Just because he's a dragon doesn't mean we have to kill him. Okay, let's go capture a dragon so that we can kill a dragon. Oh, wow. Yep, I think this can hold a dragon. I don't know how about trapping, but sure, it definitely could fit a dragon. And it's time to fight. And a guy definitely just died. Guess I gotta do that dragon run thing, right? The more I think about it, the more I've just enjoyed fighting dragons when I've had like a group of dudes with me. Because then it just feels more like a heroic battle. With me, I have to hide behind stuff and it's kind of meh. But with a group, like, yes, they do have to die a lot of times. But like seeing like dudes get picked off does make it feel more like there's stakes in the battle. And boom, caught like a bear in a trap. So without even rolling for persuasions, we were able to learn that Alduin is in a place where only dragons can go for some reason. And seeing as to us not having wings and beard dragon not being an option for some reason, we had to convince this dude, Odaving, to actually take us to Alduin. Which luckily he is willing to betray Alduin to help us out. So, you know, that worked out. And I think now we're finally reaching the conclusion to the story, which is crazy. So with a cool dragon ride over, we are here, wherever here is. Oh, and here comes the dragons. Ha! This final dungeon, not dungeon gauntlet area, is actually not too bad. Just a mixing of dragons and of course drogs, and having it not just stuck inside, but outside is actually very nice. But after defeating everybody and heading aside, we find out that we're stuck inside of literally the same architecture we've been stuck into for literally hours now, right when I had my hopes up. Again, this area itself isn't that bad. I personally take it as a last hurrah of Skyrim's aesthetics, right? That's a great way of looking at it. As for the puzzles, well, again, with the similarness, I am a little bit disappointed with the puzzles. They did turn out to be a little bit too similar for my liking also. Mostly just with the statues literally just all being up, hey, it's a statue and it has a snake and a bird and a whale and put them in the right way. That is a little bit disappointing, but I mean, I don't know. But as I was making my way through this last dungeon, I wasn't spoiled, but I was warned in chat while streaming this that there was a hard enemy ahead. Through my previous playthroughs as a young lad in Skyrim, I had met some powerful enemies that I knew of as the Crosses. Mostly because since the first cult dude that you find is literally named Crosses, so I just call all of them Crosses dudes. But they are dudes that are at dragon shrines, and sometimes they are really tough. If you beat them, you can get their mask, which is pretty good and also kind of cool looking. I mean, it is kind of culty, but also kind of cool. You know, as for example, the mask I have on right now. The mask that we have, though, isn't really that crazy for a build, but, I mean, it looks cool, so that's honestly why we're wearing it for the most part. But with being warned that there is one of them at the end of this, and it's actually really tough. So tough that if you are trying to collect on masks, you might have to just give up on that. I was honestly kind of scared, but I was confident with the power of Christ and the game's willingness to hopefully let me save scum that we should be able to conquer it. I'm at least willing to give it a college try. But after making it out of the final dungeon, even though I know it's technically a temple, not a dungeon, which did take longer than I thought, we take out the drugs up here. And honestly, once I saw this, I knew it was a good time to drop a save and to get ready to take on the boss Crosses. Once at the top, I wasn't expecting the guy to not be fully healed, so I just started slugging him with twin firebolts and giving him the good old stun lock. I was a bit panicking in this moment, but just trying to take him out before he could possibly reach his stab. Because I know games. Once they grab that stab, oh, they're going to be powered up. And at the last moment, I heard the words, unlimited power! And with sparks, Gibbly the Gobbler was able to take him down before he could even get his staff. Yeah! Oh, that could have been really bad. I'm surprised I was able to do this, and I wasn't expecting, but I'm really glad this happened. It was really funny. And honestly, the best part is that this mask is Nocturne, which literally helps with both destruction and restoration spells, which is just perfect for Gibbly the Gobbler. Oh, also, I'm supposed to just jump into this portal, and I'm realizing now that the Croesus boss takes the staff out, which turns it off, so I guess we just took care of one step in the process, I guess. So in we go. And now we are here. Where is here? Honestly, I'm still just living off the happy feeling of taking out the Croesus dudes, who is supposedly really hard. But further in, as we approach into this fog, I mean, nothing bad happens. We do hear a dragon, though, and honestly, I'm a little worried that we're gonna have to deal with Alduin in this spoopy fog, which could be cool, but also probably hard to deal with. Oh, instead, we are actually approached by a dude. We learned that this is the Valley of the Shadow of Death, and that Alduin is literally feeding off of lost souls here. Wait, how does Alduin just have a portal to this weird purgatory place? Like, how? I don't understand. So, I agree to escort this lost soul to a great hall, which is at the end of this place. I equip my Clear Skies shout because why not see if I can clear this fog? And guess what? It actually works. Cool. Alduin just flies off to a new area. And just going through the fog and shouting seemed to work, and I made it to the hall. Cool. I don't know what happened to my friend, but oh well. At the end, I'm stopped by somebody who has to challenge me to a warrior's test to get into the Hall of Valor, which, I mean, at this point, literally seems like Valhalla. But okay. So a 1v1. So on a 1v1, I'm literally getting whooped on. And I tried using my new shout, but died before it could work. So the shout is actually a storm call, which literally uses lightning from the sky to attack, which, I mean, I honestly really want to get off. It seems really cool. And again, this was really the only shout that I learned that was actually really cool from our little side adventure. So on round 2, I instantly learned that my fireballs don't stun him, which is a problem, but I did get my lightning shout off, which is good, and the lightning shout worked, like, instantly, making it kind of anticlimactic, actually. And since we were only to attack to get his health low, not kill, now the shout is still going. He's still getting hit by lightning strikes, and honestly, I'm getting a little bit afraid that he might get aggroed of me hitting him. Hopefully, he doesn't get mad. And before he does get mad, we were able to cross this hazardous-looking bridge made by a dragon, maybe, to the hall, I guess. And we made it to Hall of Valor. Cool. And then we meet up with the 3 peeps who we saw take on Alduin in the Pass of the Elder Scroll. And they are eager to help out with taking out Alduin, which I guess makes sense. The game plan looks like we are going to try to use all of our shouts all at once to clear the fog. That's our plan to defeating Alduin. Cool. Why not try it out? So, we are ready to use our shouts. Well, I'm not actually. I'm literally still waiting like forever to recharge after using Storm Call. It just depletes your bar too much. And yeah, we did it. Definitely didn't have to wait literally 2 minutes to do this. But it looks like it didn't work. So what's our game plan? We're gonna do it again. Which, I mean, cool, works this time, which is kind of silly. And then boom, Alduin is gonna show up. Cool, let's attack him. I instantly try using my lightning call shout again. Because, you know, why not use it? It's gonna be a cool way to end the story, right? That would make sense, right? But it actually turns out that my Commandians get actually hurt by it. And it's just dealing damage to them instead of Alduin. So, take 2. We are gonna just use Dragarin, let my friends whoop on him on the ground while I do the good old twin firebolt. Yeah, this is probably a better strategy. This is still like the previous fight against Alduin's, mechanic-wise at least. But this time, I'm not the only one who's the real target. I mean, I kind of wasn't before, but like for this time, for sure, I am not. Which is cool. I'm fine with not hiding behind rocks. And once more during a dragon fight, mid-fight, I leveled up. So for the last time, we are leveling up our Magicka all the way up to 363. Weird number, what we take those. And we upgraded how much damage we take while wearing heavy armor, since we're actually wearing ebony heavy armor that I found along our journey. And at the very end, we finally defeat Alduin. I mean, I didn't get the final hit again, but whatever, I'm not salty. We are told to leave and all, since, you know, we are alive and all that, but are also told that when we die that there will be a feast waiting for me. Great. Glad to see that there's something to look forward to me. I mean, I don't think I'll be there. I think I'll be hanging out with a different person. Good old JC. And once back at the World Eater, aka Beard Dragon's spot, we see a swarm of dragons. Did I get the bad ending? So, the Beard Dragon leaves to eventually rule the dragon with his way of the voice instead of power. Sure, good luck with that. But our boy Odoving is still here, and he bows down to us. He's in servitude, which means we can use him in battles, which is actually kind of cool. And I guess, actually, with the DLC later on, we actually get to ride him too. Awesome. I like that. I was a silly boy, though, and at the end here, if you start walking down the mountain, you actually get credits, and me being a scrub and all, I didn't do that. So, no credits. But this was the tale of Gibbly the Gobbler.
I'm really glad I finally played Skyrim. Like, its main story. Like, I'm really glad I actually finally took the steps and played it. Yes, while compared to some of its side quest storylines of becoming a literal werewolf, it may seem a bit too vanilla, but honestly, there was still plenty in the game that I was just surprised to find. Like, time travel is just in the game. I'm just shook by it. Like, that was the biggest twist that I wasn't expecting at all. As a Christian specifically talking about Skyrim and playing Skyrim, what I do like is that, yes, it gave choices that you can do of either being good or bad. I love that in general with RPGs, the role-playing aspect of making choices. I think that's important to the player, even if it's, oh, I'm not gonna make the bad choice, like, obviously, because I don't like doing that. The setting of Skyrim itself and being heavily influenced by the medieval setting, and not only that, obviously Norse mythology, it's heavily based in that, as we saw especially later on in the later parts of the game, and specific part of literally looking like Valhalla. But beyond that, I don't think it's anything intrusive, anything too bad that's, I don't know, bad for a Christian to play. There's no, like, evil parts. Like, yes, obviously there's some evil creatures that you have to fight, and you could do stuff like stealing. Like I said before, in a previous time of playing through this game, I literally did I went and took part in the Thieves Guild. Like, yes, that is a huge part of it. But again, there was no part in the game itself that I very felt convicted and felt like, oh no, I should not be playing this game as a Christian. I think Skyrim did a good job at putting you in a position to actually go on an adventure with this big world, especially at the time, and with so many things that you can do if you want. I always think back to the old grandma gamer who is known for playing Skyrim for so much, and all she does is collect flowers. Like, that's all she does, and she still plays the game. Like, that kind of aspect of you have the opportunity, I love. And obviously the actual heroics that you do get to do is cool and entertaining. Now again, this is technically my favorite Elder Scroll game, and that's mostly because this is like really the only one I've played, especially now that I've technically beaten it. But is it really worth it to be sold this many times? I don't know about that. I am glad that this technically gives opportunity for new players to experience this game if they haven't. I think that's really good. But beyond that, I don't think it's a so-called masterpiece, and many people know that. Let alone just because it's a Bethesda game and they normally put out games that are pretty buggy. The game itself is flawed, and probably the biggest way I've already said countless times throughout this video is, well, one is the dungeons. The dungeons are way too similar and they become pretty boring as you go on. The second thing is the lack of variety in, well, enemy types. Yes, they do have some that are actually pretty unique and I really enjoyed, but for the most part, you will be fighting a lot of drogs and it's just not that interesting to a certain point. Yes, this may make sense more in the lore side or more realistic of, yes, it would be more just these creatures. Yes, the dungeons would look very similar of this kind of aesthetic, but still, it's just to a point that it's not enjoyable to the player, I think. and I don't think it's just really well designed as a game in that sense. Credits to them though, again, this is a massive world for the time of the game originally coming out, and so I can understand that kind of adding towards the whole side of it being very similar in its aesthetic. But should you play this game? I think you should. This is a great game to experience, especially since it's kind of a iconic, at this point, classic of a game in the gaming industry. Again, it very much popularized the idea of open world, and not just an empty open world, but an open world that had a lot of side quests to do. For me, this game is great. I'm glad I finally took the steps to go through the story once more. I'm saying it again. But yes, like, it's funny. I haven't mentioned this, but like, my introduction of this game was through, well, choir. In my school growing up, I was kind of forced to join choir. There's a certain spot in middle school that you kind of have to. Kind of lame, but it's there. And one point, we actually got to sing the song in Skyrim. Mostly because the choir instructor, her daughter actually played Skyrim, and so because of that, she influenced her, and cool. I mean, I got to sing it. And with that being my first real introduction, I mean, obviously before that point, I had heard of Skyrim before, but I'd never seen it or played it because I was a young lad. A young child who wasn't really on YouTube much. But I even knew after that point that this was a game that I needed to actually play and learn about. I mean, even just hearing the part of Dragonborn, you know how cool that is? Of not only just a dragon, but you're a dragon dude. Again, I didn't also play D&D at this point, so I wasn't really introduced to that kind of race, so. Let me know down in the comments what games you want me to play in this kind of style of review fashion. The next game we're going to be covering is going to be, well, it's actually going to be our special video. We do that every so often. Every 5th game we cover is actually a game that one of you guys have actually recommended. Whether it's through Twitter, whether it's through just the comments down below, any of that kind of fashions is a great way to let me know, hey, play this game, and you know what? I'll put it down on the list and we will play them. That's it for today. I'm Noah, your Christian gamer. God loves you. God bless.